In March 2025, images spread across social media claiming that satellite radar had revealed an underground complex. Beneath the Giza pyramids, giant cylindrical shafts, spiral passages, chambers, and structures extending hundreds of meters into the earth. The scale was extraordinary. If the images represented real architecture, they would describe something far larger than the pyramids above them. But the announcement did not come from an archaeological excavation. No camera had entered the supposed shafts. No drill core had reached them. No independent survey team had reproduced the result. Specialists in radar and Egyptology publicly questioned whether the method could detect structures at the claimed depths at all. That does not mean the Great Pyramid has no hidden spaces. It does. In 2017, 3 independent cosmic ray detector systems identified a previously unknown void at least 30 meters long above the Grand Gallery. In 2023, another hidden corridor behind the pyramid's north face was measured with several non-destructive techniques and then photographed through a small opening. The corridor was real. It was empty. Its purpose remained uncertain. And beneath the pyramid, cut into the limestone bedrock, lies a chamber known for centuries but still not fully explained. 3 stories are often blended together: a real chamber below the monument, confirmed voids inside it, and an unverified underground city claim beneath the wider plateau. Separate them, and the mystery becomes more interesting, not less. The central question is no longer whether something is hidden. The evidence says that it is. The real question is what kind of secret a pyramid can contain: a burial space, a construction device, an abandoned design, or an empty volume created to keep millions of tons of stone standing. That distinction also changes the emotional center of the story. The most dramatic online version asks whether an entire buried civilization has been concealed beneath Egypt. The evidence-based version asks something more precise. Why did Khufu's builders create large inaccessible spaces within a structure whose passages were already designed to be hidden? That question can be tested. It leads to measurements, architecture, and construction sequence, rather than mythology alone. The monument we think we know. The Great Pyramid was built for the 4th dynasty king Khufu during the 3rd millennium BCE. Egypt's Ministry of Tourism and Antiquities identifies it as Khufu's tomb and gives its original height as 146.5 meters. It remained the tallest human-made structure in the world for roughly 3,800 years. Its visible scale encourages a misleading assumption: because the exterior is simple, the interior must also follow one simple plan. It does not. The known passage system begins with an entrance on the north face. A descending corridor cuts through the masonry and continues into the bedrock. Partway down, another passage rises toward the Grand Gallery, the so-called Queen's Chamber, and the higher King's Chamber. Above the King's Chamber, 5 small granite spaces help 1. Distribute the enormous load. Narrow shafts extend from the upper chambers. Some reach the exterior. Others end behind blocking stones. The arrangement is unusual. Egypt's official monument description notes that the Great Pyramid contains 1 chamber cut under the bedrock and 2 higher chambers inside the masonry. No other Egyptian pyramid repeats this exact combination. The structure also changed during construction, or at least appears to preserve more than one architectural intention. The underground chamber was left unfinished. The Queen's Chamber was completed more carefully but apparently not used for a royal burial. The King's Chamber became the final granite-lined room containing the sarcophagus. Passageways were sealed, and the original entrance was disguised within the casing. This layered plan matters because an unknown void does not automatically imply an unknown civilization or a hidden archive. Ancient builders altered projects. They relieved pressure above corridors. They left cavities around structural features. They changed where a burial chamber would be placed. On the surface, those explanations can sound disappointingly ordinary. But there is one problem. The Scan Pyramid's big void is not a crack between stones. The published measurements indicate a space with a cross-section comparable to the Grand Gallery and a minimum length of 30 meters. It is large enough to demand an architectural explanation, even if that explanation turns out to be engineering rather than ritual. The chamber below the bedrock. The oldest hidden space in this story is not hidden from archaeologists at all. The descending corridor continues beneath the base of the pyramid into the natural limestone plateau. About 30 meters below the surface, it opens into an irregular chamber commonly called the subterranean chamber or unfinished chamber. The room looks unlike the precisely finished king's chamber above. Its floor is rough. Parts of the bedrock were never fully removed. A trench or pit cuts into one area. A short passage extends southward and stops. The chamber feels less like a completed sacred room than a work site abandoned during excavation. The standard interpretation is that it may represent an early plan for Khufu's burial chamber. In earlier pyramid traditions, burial rooms were commonly placed below ground. If Khufu's architects later decided to move the burial higher into the body of the pyramid, work below could simply have stopped. That explanation is plausible, but it is still an interpretation. No surviving building order says, abandon this chamber and move the king upward. The room may also have served a symbolic role connected to the underworld, a construction stage, or a purpose that was never completed. Its unfinished state tells us that the design process changed. It does not tell us exactly why. This is the first important limit on the word secret. A space can be known physically and remain unknown functionally. The chamber also demonstrates why dramatic claims about enormous structures beneath Giza require physical confirmation. Archaeologists know what a real underground space looks like when it is connected to the monument. It has cut surfaces, tool marks, debris histories, dimensions, passages, and a geological context. Its relationship to the pyramid can be mapped. The 2025 underground city images did not provide that level of evidence. They presented processed remote sensing interpretations without an excavated opening or a second independent technology confirming the same shafts. The contrast is not between open-minded researchers and people afraid of discovery. It is between levels of proof. 2. The subterranean chamber is confirmed. Its purpose is disputed. The claimed deep city is unconfirmed. Its very existence remains disputed. Between them lies the strongest modern evidence, voids inside the pyramid detected by methods that were independently repeated. How cosmic rays made stone transparent. The key technology is muography. Cosmic rays strike Earth's upper atmosphere and produce particles called muons. These particles constantly pass through buildings, mountains, and human bodies. Dense material absorbs more of them. Empty space absorbs fewer. A muon detector placed inside or near a massive structure can record the directions from which particles arrive. If more muons pass through one region than a solid stone model predicts, that excess can indicate a lower density area or a void. The idea is similar to an X-ray, but the source is natural and the object is far larger than a human body. Muon imaging is not new. In the late 1960s, Nobel Prize-winning physicist Luis Alvarez led a search for hidden chambers in Khufu's pyramid. That experiment did not find a new room, but it established that cosmic particles could be used to examine monuments without cutting into them. The Scan Pyramids mission applied improved detectors to Khufu's pyramid. Its 2017 Nature paper reported the same large anomaly using 3 approaches: nuclear emulsion films in the Queen's chamber, electronic scintillator detectors in the same area, and gas detectors positioned outside the pyramid. Why does that matter? Because a surprising image from one device can result from noise, calibration error, an incorrect model, or an analytical assumption. 3 detector technologies, 3 positions, and independent analyses greatly reduce the chance that the entire signal is an accident. The conclusion was carefully limited. The team had found a large void above the Grand Gallery. It did not claim to know whether the void was horizontal or inclined. It did not call it a burial chamber. It did not report artifacts, inscriptions, a doorway, or a connection to known passages. That restraint is scientifically important. Muon radiography measures density differences. It can reveal that stone is missing from a volume. It cannot, by itself, tell us why that volume exists or what is inside it. A chamber, a corridor, a series of construction gaps, or several smaller spaces might produce related signals. The big void was therefore both a major discovery and an incomplete one. It proved that the internal map of the world's most studied pyramid was still unfinished. It did not prove that the newly detected space was designed to be entered. That distinction becomes clearer when we compare it with the second Scan Pyramids discovery, where remote sensing was eventually followed by a camera. The corridor behind the chevrons. High on the north face of the Great Pyramid, above the original entrance, enormous limestone blocks form a chevron-shaped roof. Builders used similar angled blocks elsewhere to redirect weight away from openings. Scan Pyramids measurements indicated a void behind this area. Unlike the big void, the north face anomaly was close enough to the exterior for several technologies to examine it in detail. Muon detectors, ground penetrating. 3. Radar, ultrasound, infrared measurements, architectural analysis, and 3-dimensional modeling all contributed to locating and characterizing the space. In 2023, researchers published a precise muon analysis and Egyptian authorities publicly revealed the result. The corridor was approximately 9 meters long, with a cross-section roughly 2 meters by 2 meters. A small endoscopic camera inserted through a narrow joint showed a gabled ceiling and an empty floor. For the first time, viewers could see one of the newly detected spaces rather than a colored density map. There was no golden furniture. No inscriptions. No sealed sarcophagus. No stairway into a forgotten city. The corridor ended. Its emptiness was not a failure. It was evidence. The gabled roof and its position behind the north face chevron support the possibility that the corridor was created to protect a lower passage or distribute the load. Zahi Hawass and other project figures suggested a weight-relieving role. Another possibility is that it may relate to an original or still unknown entrance system. Neither explanation has been proved conclusively. The important point is methodological. The anomaly was first detected without damage. Its location was narrowed by multiple techniques. Only then was a tiny camera used to inspect it. The observation matched the basic prediction. An actual corridor-shaped void existed where the measurements placed it. That is what confirmation looks like. It also gives us a model for the big void. Researchers need better position estimates, higher resolution scans, and a minimally invasive route that Egyptian authorities consider safe. Until a camera reaches it, its geometry and function remain open. For viewers attracted to the phrase hidden chamber, the North Corridor offers a warning. Ancient empty space can be architecturally intentional without being a room for people, treasure, or texts. The builders did not only construct chambers to occupy. They constructed emptiness to control stone. Why empty space can hold up a mountain. A pyramid is not simply a pile of blocks. Openings inside it change how weight moves. Every corridor and chamber interrupts the mass above. Without a structural solution, pressure can crack a ceiling or force walls inward. Ancient Egyptian builders used several methods to redirect those loads. The Grand Gallery has a corbelled profile, each course projects inward over the one below, gradually narrowing the space as it rises. The King's Chamber uses massive granite beams. Above it are 5 low compartments, traditionally called relieving chambers, topped by angled limestone blocks. Their precise contribution is still studied, but their placement clearly relates to managing the enormous masonry load around the chamber. The north face corridor sits beneath chevron blocks. Its roof resembles a structural device rather than decorative architecture. This provides the strongest ordinary explanation for at least some hidden voids. They are components of the pyramid's internal load management system. 4. Consider a simple analogy. A bridge is not weakened merely because it contains arches. The empty spaces are part of how the bridge redirects force. But the analogy has a limitation. A pyramid's internal voids were created within a solid mass using ancient stone construction, and we do not possess the builder's calculations or complete construction sequence. A long space above the Grand Gallery could reduce weight directly over the gallery. It could be a second gallery used during building. It could be a sequence of cavities produced by the way blocks were arranged. It might also have a ritual or logistical role unrelated to stress relief. What would we expect if the big void were primarily structural? Its position should correspond closely to zones of concentrated pressure. Its shape might mirror or protect the gallery below. It might lack decorated surfaces, access passages, or funerary equipment. What would challenge that interpretation? A clear doorway, a carefully finished chamber, an independent corridor, ritual features, inscriptions, or an orientation. That does not make structural sense. At present, muography cannot answer those questions. A 2026 study of the Great Pyramid's response to ambient vibrations added another layer to the engineering discussion. Researchers reported that the monument behaves as a highly stable structure and examined how its geometry, bedrock, and internal spaces affect vibration. The study does not prove that the big void was designed for earthquake resistance. It does reinforce a broader point: internal architecture affects how the monument carries and dissipates forces. The secret may therefore be less like a vault and more like a design decision. An empty volume can be evidence of extraordinary engineering even when no one was ever meant to enter it. The underground city that wasn't confirmed. Now return to the viral claims from 2025. The story described large geometric structures beneath the Giza plateau, sometimes specifically beneath Khufu's pyramid rather than Khufu's. Online versions claimed shafts hundreds of meters deep, spiral features, chambers, water systems, and in some retellings the legendary halls of Amenti. The claims were associated with researchers using a technique they called synthetic aperture radar Doppler tomography. A 2022 paper by Filippo Biondi and Corrado Malanga described using satellite radar data and tiny surface movements to reconstruct features inside the Great Pyramid. The paper itself acknowledged the poor direct penetration of radar through solid bodies and proposed an indirect method based on vibrations. Whatever one thinks of that published technique, the later underground city claims went much further than the confirmed scan pyramid's results. Radar specialists interviewed by fact-checking organizations argued that conventional satellite SAR is designed mainly to image surfaces and cannot simply see hundreds of meters through limestone at the claimed resolution. Egyptologists noted that no authorized mission had excavated or scanned the alleged structures on site. No peer-reviewed archaeological paper had documented the giant shafts shown in the viral reconstructions. This does not prove that the bedrock under every part of Giza contains no natural cavities or human-made features. The plateau includes tomb shafts, chambers, quarries, tunnels, and geological irregularities. Ancient Egyptians routinely cut into bedrock. It does mean that the specific underground metropolis was not established by the evidence publicly available. The strongest test is reproducibility. 5. Can another team process independent data and detect the same features? Can a different method, seismic survey, electrical resistivity, ground radar from the surface, microgravity, drilling, or muography, place the same shaft at the same coordinates? Can a safe physical investigation confirm worked stone rather than natural geology or a processing artifact? Until those steps occur, the underground city belongs in the category of reported claim, not archaeological discovery. This is where skepticism protects the real mystery. If every computer-generated cavity is treated as a buried civilization, the confirmed Big Void becomes just another sensational image. But the Big Void survived independent measurements and peer review. The North Corridor survived a camera. Good evidence does not make the Great Pyramid less mysterious. It gives the mystery boundaries. What the pyramid's context tells us. The Great Pyramid does not stand alone. It formed the center of a royal mortuary complex with temples, causeways, subsidiary pyramids, boat pits, cemeteries, administrative areas, and settlements. The wider Giza landscape contains the evidence that sensational stories often omit. Egypt's official archaeology describes a workers' settlement at Height al-Ghurab with houses, magazines, streets, administrative buildings, and large galleries. Animal bones and food production facilities show that the state organized supplies for a substantial workforce. Harvard's Digital Giza project emphasizes that the pyramids were built by native Egyptian laborers, including skilled workers, rather than by aliens or a mysterious vanished civilization. The Diary of Mirror, found at Wadi al-Jarf, records a crew transporting fine limestone from Tura to Ake Khufu, the ancient name associated with Khufu's pyramid complex. It does not explain how every block was lifted. It does connect the monument to a documented Egyptian administration, transport system, and named king. Inside the pyramid, quarry marks in spaces above the king's chamber include references associated with Khufu's work gangs. Outside it, the surrounding tombs and settlement reveal the human organization required to build the complex. Why does this matter to hidden space theories? Because interpretation must fit the archaeological world that produced the building. A newly discovered void should first be tested against 4th dynasty construction, funerary practice, load management, access routes, and design changes. A claim that requires a global lost civilization, a prehistoric power plant, or a library extending kilometers underground must explain why it leaves no matching material culture in the excavated plateau. This is not an argument that Egyptologists already know everything. The Scan Pyramids discoveries prove they do not. It is an argument about proportionality. The pyramid's context strongly supports construction under Khufu by an organized Egyptian state. The purpose of every internal void remains open. Those two statements can coexist. The choice is not between total certainty and total mystery. 6. We can know who commissioned the monument while still debating how its builders staged construction. We can know that it functioned as a royal tomb while still asking why the underground chamber was abandoned. We can reject an unsupported city beneath Giza while accepting that major spaces remain unseen inside the pyramid. A serious mystery is not one in which nothing is known. It is one in which the known evidence points clearly to the edge of what has not yet been observed. The most realistic possibilities. What, then, could the scan pyramid's big void be? The first possibility is structural relief. Its position above the Grand Gallery makes this the most conservative. Explanation. The space may reduce load or result from a system of angled blocks protecting the gallery. The second possibility is a construction corridor. Builders may have needed temporary access to place blocks, move counterweights, manage ramps, or inspect internal work. If the space was later sealed, it could preserve evidence about the building sequence without ever having served a funerary purpose. The third possibility is multiple smaller spaces rather than one continuous chamber. Muography reveals lower density along a volume. Until its shape is resolved at high precision, the signal could represent a combination of cavities. The fourth possibility is an intentional chamber with a ritual or funerary function. Ancient Egyptian royal architecture was symbolic as well as practical. The big void scale leaves this possibility open, particularly if future work reveals a deliberate entrance or finished surfaces. The fifth possibility is an abandoned design. The subterranean chamber demonstrates that plans changed. A passage or chamber begun for one purpose may have been enclosed when the architects selected another arrangement. These possibilities are not equally supported, but none requires fantasy. The most important unknown is access. If no passage connects the big void to the known system, that favors structural or construction explanations. If a narrow route links it to one of the shafts or galleries, its interpretation changes. If the interior is rough and filled with backing stones, it may be engineering. If it is carefully finished, level, and intentionally sealed, the archaeological stakes rise. There is also the possibility that the answer will resist a single label. A space can begin as a construction route and later become part of a load-relieving system. Ancient architecture often reuses practical features within symbolic designs. The discovery process itself is now part of the story. The Great Pyramid was once explored by forcing passages through stone. Modern researchers face a different standard. The monument is unique and irreplaceable. A careless attempt to reach a void could destroy the evidence it seeks. That is why progress appears slow. Teams must balance curiosity against conservation, scientific access against national stewardship, and public pressure against the danger of turning archaeology into live entertainment. The next major discovery may require a hole only a few centimeters wide. But before that hole is made, researchers must know exactly where to place it. 7. What the next scan must prove. The next phase of investigation should produce observable results. First, higher-resolution muon measurements should clarify the big void's position, orientation, and whether it is one space or several. If different detector placements converge on the same geometry, confidence will increase. If the shape changes significantly with improved data, some early interpretations will weaken. Second, researchers should search for a safe access route. A tiny robotic camera or sensor introduced through an existing joint would be far less destructive than cutting a human passage. The North Corridor proved that this sequence can work, detect, localize, confirm. Third, structural models should test the void against the Grand Gallery. If removing that volume significantly reduces calculated stress, the engineering explanation becomes stronger. If its position provides little structural Benefit: researchers must look more seriously at construction or ritual roles. Fourth, any future claim of deep structures beneath Giza should meet the same standard. It should provide coordinates, methods, uncertainties, independent replication, and on-site verification. A dramatic rendering is not a substitute for a measured cavity. What would disprove the argument developed here? A verified man-made network beneath the plateau, confirmed by independent geophysics and direct archaeological inspection, would force a major reassessment. A decorated chamber inside the big void would overturn the simplest load relief interpretation. An inscription naming another purpose would transform the debate immediately. Science must leave room for those outcomes. But it cannot begin by assuming them. What is confirmed today is already remarkable. A monument built more than 4.5 millennia ago contains at least one major unknown void and a hidden corridor documented only in the 21st century. Its unfinished chamber beneath the bedrock still preserves evidence of changing plans. Its internal geometry continues to challenge engineers, particle physicists, and Egyptologists. The deepest lesson is methodological. The Great Pyramid does not need an underground city to remain extraordinary. Its authentic mysteries are large enough. The question is whether the next generation will enter the big void and find a chamber made for the dead, a passage made for builders, or the most ambitious empty space ever constructed to protect a room below. Until that evidence arrives, the responsible conclusion is neither dismissal nor belief. It is disciplined uncertainty. Accept the spaces that multiple methods have confirmed, reject dimensions that no independent team has reproduced. And keep the interpretation proportional to the data.